Now, we had also invited Gavin Salisbury from ESRC and Ralph Dunn from the European Commission. Both of them were coming until yesterday, when Gavin had some crisis and wasn't able to attend, and Ralph is not at all well. So apologies from both. So Jeff has stepped into the breach. They had sent us some material, and Jeff will present it on their behalf.
While this is being done, perhaps I could say, as far as an awareness of complexity is concerned, I'd like to remind you all that you can join the International Complex Systems Society, which provides all kinds of services and education in complex systems, and that is a demonstration that you are indeed complexity aware. And also, I may say, from a sort of democratic point of view, that if you want to join in the administration of that society, you'd be very, very welcome onto its various committees. So that's the right. Don't know if I can do this, but I'll try. Okay, well, our purpose today is to try to devise new research, innovative research in applied complexity science and this new framework of public policy. So you all know that and understand that, I hope. And so what kind of support is there for that? And what I'm going to tell you about is what I know about. Unfortunately, it's incomplete and imperfect, but life's like that. I'm going to tell you about the ASSIST project, which I'm a coordinator of, and the Global Systems Dynamics project, which Stephen will say a few words about, and some information that we put together. ESRC's spoken for itself, so I shan't say anything about that. I'll tell you a little bit about the European Commission FET, Future Emergent Technology Unit, which has been very supportive of complex system science, a bit about this new thing called Complexity Net, and something about the EPSRC calls. And I don't have any information about NERC or tectonic plates or anything. But actually, I think that's to do with earthquake, Peter, so it's okay. The first thing to tell you about is these are perhaps a bit out of order, but this is the FET mission, Future Emerging Technology. Unlike the complaints we just had, FET, one of the criteria for a successful project is that it might fail. So if it couldn't fail, it's not interesting, gets thrown in the bin. And that makes it very wacky and interesting, and all kinds of projects, most of which don't fail and some of which do fail spectacularly. And that's probably how it should be. So that's the FET mission: refine what's possible, insist on vision, high risk, etc., etc. These slides are out of order, but not to worry. Do you want to say a few words, Stephen, about your coordination action? While it's passing over, if you don't know, Coordination Action is a European-funded project which is supposed to coordinate research. So Stephen has one of these under this title.
So unfortunately, it's not a research grant itself to do research. It's a coordinated action, so it's just to create networks and find out, A, what's being done, and B, what needs to be done. So I think the input as far as the EU is concerned is they would like what they call a roadmap of where we should be going in the future. The main emphasis in what the GSD project is about is actually to do with a word that's missed off the slide. It's because it's global system dynamics and policies, but actually when I was filling the forms in for the EU grant, I thought that was too long an acronym and I lost the P. I thought GSD was much snappier, but unfortunately a key element is the policies bit. So I have to apologize, but I think it's still quite snappy though. It was climate driven, but it's not just climate that we ought to be interested in. It's how mathematics and how science can assist and influence policy, and so climate is clearly one of the big issues on that. It came about really from two people coming together, Julian Hunt, who's now in the House of Lords with David Putnam, and was the former director of our Met Office, and Klaus Hasselmann, who was his counterpart in the German Meteorological Office. They were both very interested in climate change, but both had arrived at it by looking at very small scale, very local, very clear scientific calculations, but then decided that what we really needed was some integrated approach to modelling which could encapsulate not only the scientific approach to the weather patterns and the climate change, but also the economic issues that arise because of that, and also the social dynamics that are involved in trying to implement those policies. So the idea is that the group of people come together, do all those things. They do social dynamics, they also look at economic modelling and climate change at the same time, finding not quite masters but and nor mistresses, but people who can actually take on board all of those issues is very difficult. Finding a model that would take on all of those things is even harder. So the idea is to try and see what actually can come out of this, what mathematics can do in order to help policymakers make decisions. One of the clear things that we think will come out is the use of visualization techniques to try and assist people to help them understand the scenarios that are likely from certain decisions. So we feel very clear that it may be that those visualization techniques are a very key element to what we should be the outcome. But that's not just what we do. As I said, I think the water issue is going to be the most critical one that there is. So I'm involved in one of the kind of mini projects we're doing is in Cyprus. They have very severe water shortage. This summer they brought in water in tankers from Greece in order to do it, but it's a very good social science study too, because as you may be aware, half of Cyprus is under the occupation of the Turkish side at the moment. The governments are speaking, but there is a lot of conflict which could be potential and could get worse, of course, if water becomes a very critical issue. So I think that's one of the kind of mini case studies that we're considering. Another one, which again is very specific but still very interesting, is the use of shipping within the Baltic Sea areas, because a lot of countries use the Baltic Sea areas for very critical transport of goods via shipping. And it's very clear that to do policy, you have to take into account all the different groups and countries that are involved with that. So it's quite clear that science can help make policies on correct shipping, but of course actually this means that the route for the ships to leave the Baltic is not a straight line, but actually goes like this, because the currents that way, if there were a disaster on a ship, the currents would actually take the waste out of the Baltic area quicker. But this is a very difficult route for ships to navigate through different waters. Another kind of issue that was discussed at one of our previous conferences was the issue of language. Now, when it was raised, I thought it was a kind of a strange thing to talk about, but we've just heard today this kind of war of climate change. We realized that maybe the language the scientists use doesn't necessarily relate to the language that other people use, and maybe we need to really think carefully about the language that we use. So in Bilbao in December, a meeting was held, and people were discussing this whole question of what language we need to develop in order to have everybody understanding, but yet understanding in the right style. So it was quite an unusual meeting, but that's part of the role of GSD, is to organize meetings that people can come together, such as this, so that we can try and find the right network of people. The next one, I think, is in Venice, which is on agent-based modelling, and I'm organising one in the House of Lords in July as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, the next coordination action is one that I'm responsible for. This is called ASSIST. This is part of a €20 million programme on so-called COSI ICT, Complex Systems for the Science of Socially Intelligent ICT, which has a lot of interesting things. This also has a remit for promoting complex system science in Europe in particular. So we also have a roadmap, and in fact this particular programme came out of a previous coordination action called ONCE. And in response to a well-made point earlier, I'd say that we have a work package in ASSIST to support females and other minorities, female scientists and other minorities. And it's great to look like around this room, which is not unusual in complex system science, which is it's more or less half male and female, although there are other minorities which are manifestly not represented here, unfortunately. Okay, another service that you can, the ASSIST project is supporting the European Conference on Complex Systems. This is an excellent way of disseminating. This year it's at Warwick University, so hopefully we'll see you all there in September. It's on the website. It's http://ecss09.info. So make a note of that and see you later in the year. This is my slides being back in order now. This is one of Ralph Dumm's slides, and essentially what it's trying to show is what you already know, that the complex systems are systems of systems and systems of systems of systems, and they all interact with each other, and if you try and look at any one, then you can't get it right. So we're trying to understand all that, and that's why we need to be interdisciplinary, as we were talking earlier, both across the social sciences, physical sciences, etc., etc. And so in fact people know about this, and I put this up. Ralph Dumm is one of the officers at the Commission who has been very instrumental in promoting complex systems. There's been a lot of projects in Europe in the last 10 years, and they're well worth looking up, and you'll find them on the Cordis website. So this is a slide that was sent to us by Gavin. So on the EPSRC website, you will actually find a guide to energy research, and so if you didn't know that was there, you do now. That this is something that a lot of people haven't seen, which is who were the winners and who were the losers in the recent competition. And you've got some winners here and some losers, I'm sorry to say, good losers. And even one evaluator. But if you can't read this, there's De Montfort University, Southampton, Edinburgh, London, and Nottingham, and Leeds, and some of those were in combination with the universities. So that's posted on the website, and well done those who were successful. That you may or may not know, there's another call out at the moment, complexity science for the real world. I think that where we are today is more or less the real world. So for our discussions later, this is one potential place for funding, as is ComplexityNet. That ComplexityNet is, it applies to various European countries, but the good news is the UK is in there with these countries here. So you need a partnership with 3 partners in Europe, and on this pilot call they're going for €500,000. So it's not enormous, but it's something. And this is the forum that Stephen was talking about, and so the conclusions are that for energy and sustainability and policy, there's huge and urgent problems. I'm sure we knew that already. That complex system science is necessary but not necessarily sufficient to solve these problems. That you've got various coordination actions. The 2 coordinations I've told you about, there are others supporting interdisciplinary research, and the various research councils, which are certainly in this country are much more aware of complex systems than they are in other countries, and have been very supportive to our community.
Great, thank you very much.